Often when we think of Sweden, we think of a peaceful, liberal country with no real enemies. We think of Ikea furniture and music and just an all-around good time. But did you know that Sweden never used to always be synonymous with things that I just mentioned before? Especially during the period of the Swedish Empire. So let's take a brief look into the Swedish Empire right now. Welcome everyone to another episode of FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton and this is a channel where we share facts and information about the different countries, cultures, and people from all around our world. Subscribe and tap that bell notification if this is your first time here, and give that like button some love as well. And before we jump right in, a question for you. What do you think first about when you hear the name Sweden? Let me know down below. Since the Kalmar Union was dissolved, which was a union from the year 1397 to 1523 that joined Denmark, Sweden, as well as Norway together under one single monarchy, Sweden's eye had been set on gaining dominion over the Baltic Sea. After Sweden intervened in 1630 in the 30 Years' War on the side of the German Protestants, and King Gustavus Adolphus, aka Gustav II Adolf, became one of Europe's most powerful monarchs, Sweden at the time had defeated Denmark in two wars of the year 1643 to 1645 and 1657 to 1658. Finland, as well as provinces in the northern region of Germany and the present-day Baltic republics, all were dominated by Sweden. And following the Peace of Westphalia in 1648 and the Peace of Roskilde with Denmark in 1658, Sweden was a great power in northern Europe. And by the way, the Peace of Westphalia was a series of peace treaties that were signed between May and October of 1648 in the Westphalian region of Germany. King Gustavus Adolf greatly reshaped the way wars were fought at the time. He was the king of Sweden from the year 1611 all the way to 1632, and he's credited for Sweden's rise as a great power. During that period in history, armies were not well drilled, and most countries would draft in soldiers really just before the war began. But King Gustavus knew that with such a small country like Sweden, he had to spice things up a little bit more. So he started his own standing army that was regularly drilled, as well as they were well paid, something that was completely unheard of at the time. One of the most prominent things that he did was he trained his men in rolling volley fire, which is a technique where a row of men would fire their guns, crouch, and then another row of men would follow as the previous men reloaded, and they would keep on doing that as they would advance towards the enemy. And the more and more they trained, the faster they would do this and the quicker they would close in on the distance of their enemy. And sometimes when the enemy nations would see them do this, they would get so scared and just retreat because they were that intimidated. Now, it was during the Great Northern War, which was a time when the map of the world was completely different than it is right now, and Sweden was a very fierce power. They had enemies to battle on all sides. You see, the Russians managed to drag the Swedes towards their own territory, where they were fighting partly over who would control the land of Ukraine. Now, during the Battle of Poltava in Ukraine, the Swedish forces tried to mount an attack against our Russian fortress that was heavily guarded, and Sweden lost around 7,000 troops. Now, at that time, that was a huge blow that they were never able to recover from. And although the war lasted years longer than that, this was the beginning of the downfall of Sweden's dominance. Sweden was defeated in the Great Northern War during the year 1700 to 1721 by a combined force of Denmark, Poland, and Russia. Sweden lost a lot of its gained territory and was left with the land of the present-day Sweden and Finland right now. Then in the wars involving Napoleon, that's when Sweden had to hand over Finland to Russia, and in exchange Sweden was given Norway. The Swedish Empire lasted from the year 1611 to 1721. After the passing of King Karl XII in 1718 and Sweden's defeat in the Great Northern War, the Swedish Parliament and the Council were strong enough to introduce a new constitution, and this constitution would completely get rid of royal absolutism and put the power in the hands of the Parliament of Sweden. And now Sweden is the country as we know it today, much different from its military-driven former state. So that was your brief overview of the Empire of Sweden. As always, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Your voice and your opinion really matters. And before you jump out of here, follow me on social media as well. Those links are below in this video description. And it's been great learning with you again here on FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and I'll see you real soon in another episode. If you enjoy videos like this, check out these videos where we explore the different empires from the past, as well as talk about different countries and cultures from all around the world. We post videos daily here on FTD Facts, so tune in tomorrow for more educational episodes.